record it, or do you want, are you going to be, will you be able to do that?
It's recording already.
Oh,
Peter.
sorry, I thought I took the mute off. Yes, it's already recorded. Sorry.
Okay. We've got quite a few people we need to have here.
Yeah, no, Nick and Charmaine are in the other room. They're just kind of preparing for tonight a little bit.
Gotcha.
That's an awful dapper picture of you, Peter.
Yeah, that's, I'm sitting there going, wait, maybe I'm just twice as important to be on the screen 2 times. That was my son's wedding.
Nice.
How are you?
Hey, Peggy.
Hello, how are you?
Well, I should have logged on. Yeah, happy New Year. Yeah, it's good to see you. It's snowing, just so you know.
It's snowing.
Yeah.
Just
snowing.
started.
Yeah.
Perfect for a long weekend.
David, do you have anything you plan on sharing?
I do not.
Okay, then I'm going to log off on my computer. So we don't have 2 of me up there. Yeah, we still have 2 of me up here.
Just in the May. I don't. Forget.
Yeah.
I have no direction.
I think that's what happened, yeah. I think she had to pull out, so. Jude, are you now the official Board of Finance representative? Yeah, that's what I thought, okay. Great. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, happy New Year.
Sorry we're late. We couldn't find a room.
Yeah, I think it said May, didn't it? On the-
Yeah, it's-
Yeah, and that's when I talked to you.
We had homework. Says Hamadas.
Oh, it said room A? Oh, okay.
Well, one of them said roommate. I had like multiple things on my thing, so.
And I looked at their floor plan that was on there, and it didn't have the names of the rooms.
Do you know if we have the other gentleman coming tonight?
I don't know. I haven't heard from John if he's coming or not. So, call to order. We have staff and certainly have a forum. Okay, so I'll call to order. Let's start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody, and Happy New Year. I know we did not meet in December, so we probably want to go through the minutes a little bit and recap or just kind of review where we've been and kind of refresh everybody's memory on things. So the minutes were distributed earlier this week from the last meeting on November 21st. I have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Okay. Any comments? I'll give everybody a minute to go through the meeting minutes. Comments to the minutes? Changes? Modifications? I think they're fine. Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approval of the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
All right. So just kind of as a recap, we've been working on several fronts. Then we'll get into the old business in a second, I think. But obviously, we've been working through the facilities cost database. We have got that, I think, in pretty good shape, except for the Peter sent me some stuff on the capital for the schools. So we'll go over that tonight. So that was kind of the missing piece there. We did that. Charmaine and Nick have been working on the strategic value survey exercise. So I know we defined, so gave you more guidance on that. So I'm looking forward to your update on that information. John and I met with Peggy and Aaron and Peter. That was since that was in early December. I think we met.
Yep.
And we had identified and took the 82 properties, John and I, we broke it down to about 12 or 15, I don't know, 15, 16 type properties that moved on to Peggy and I think Jeannie was she was gonna start looking at that. So
And she has started.
So-
She sent me where she's right now. So
okay, great.
she's
So
done a bunch of
we'll
research.
talk about that as well. So those are kind of the old business items. The new business, we want to go over the calendar for next year, but I also thought we'd take some time and I want to leave some time. So hopefully we'll get through the old business issues fairly quickly. Because I think it's going to be important now that we've kind of set the financial database, we're setting some strategic objectives, and we're also setting some property objectives to make a list of tasks and kind of deadlines or at least goals, date goals that we have. So what do we want to accomplish over the next, let's say, 2 or 3 months, then the following 2 or 3 months, the following 2 or 3 months, kind of break it down into how the quarter is going to look like in terms of our goals and objectives to try to keep everything going. So if that makes sense, I'll move forward with the old business unless anybody else has a comment on that. No comments? Okay.
I just want to flag that I probably will need to leave here by like 10 after 7.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Peggy. Can you repeat that a bit louder? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I just was saying, I was flagging, I have to leave here by about 10 after 7.
Oh, okay.
So let's go start with the capital costs. So Peter had done some research on can you brief the committee on where we are on the capital costs for the school buildings?
Yeah, so we're it's we're still at a I don't know how to say this is I don't know if it's a crossroads or a lack of information and so on for what I can give out. I mean, but it's we're still getting some more information together on this. I've got some of it, not all of it.
I thought there were a handful, I thought there were.
In regards to custodial stuff?
Yeah, the capital studies, that was what we were looking at. Big capital expenditure requirements for the school buildings.
I'm sorry.
Because
So that would be
the
the
DRA
CIP.
report
CIP
didn't
stuff,
have, it had the
Yep.
listing, but it didn't have any financials or any.
Right.
Yeah, there's a whole
Projects.
10-year spreadsheet that
So-
came out of that.
Right.
So in
Yeah.
that capital reserves, second here. Might be able to share this. Oh, shoot, nice lot. There we go. So we've lightened up the load significantly on the capital expenditures for the school system, mostly because we've done so much work. We do
So
have,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you basically, back in November, you sent me an email saying that there was a CES study in March of 2010. The report was done by CES, it said.
in regards to the upgrades or what the requirements of
Yeah,
the schools.
I've come
would be.
across capital
So-
needs survey with costs associated for each school. The report was done by CES in March
So
of
that-
2010.
That tied directly into our CIP. And what we did there is there was a series of projects that had been left idle for a while, and then there's a series of projects that we've actually started to move forward on. So the most current at this point is we have a reoccurring capital expense district-wide for security and facilities, and which would be planning and engineering, which is $100,000 a year combined. That's planned every year for the next 5 years. For large capital improvements, I can list these through. There is at Daniel Hand High School, we do have a field upgrade that we're going to be doing. We're currently involved with a rooftop renovation unit, which are replacement, but that's in play and that's not going to be moving forward. These are not like repeat ones. So if you're looking for repeat expenditures, the only one that I have is the $100,000 district
Yeah,
wide.
everything else is like a big capital
Is-
project that's in CIP. So.
Yeah, I think it's important to, and I think we started to discuss this last meeting.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
so you want the actual CIP plan,
Yes.
which they
Oh,
just
I'm
voted
sorry.
on.
You
Just
know,
so
not
you understand, the new one was just voted on.
I was
yesterday.
confused when we were looking.
Yeah.
I have that right here. I can
Yeah.
send it to you right now.
And it's on the
Yeah.
website, they just voted on the actual 5-year capital plan. So
Okay.
that'll have all
Let
the
me
projects
forward
for
this to you right
schools
now,
in town.
And we discussed the fact that there's been a lot of flux there in terms of school building capital requirements because we're going through the school's renewal plan right now. And prior to the referendum in February of 22, where the town passed the school's renewal plan, we had a combined 10-year capital maintenance and upgrade. Well, I think it was called the 10-year plan for maintenance of the schools, and it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $110 million.
But the Board of Ed though, Seth, just so I understand, there is a spreadsheet that goes by building, right? And then lays
Yes.
out annual and then.
We use that. We use
right?
that to plan for the. That's what I was going to get to next. That has shrunk a lot because of we're getting rid of 4 buildings basically. Well, between Island Avenue and the 3 we're getting rid of now, we've shrunk from 7 buildings down to 4 starting next fall. So a lot of those capital projects and a lot of those maintenance projects have fallen off the books completely and will never need to be done.
Well,
But-
but they
but
come
we
to the
need-
town, right? Because there's
Yes,
things that needs to
see-
happen to those buildings,
Yeah,
so
so-
we need the.
Yeah.
So the big question
Yeah.
from the school standpoint is less what needs to be done in the existing buildings that will be continuing and more, and what was planned or what was identified as capital needs for Ryerson, Jeffrey, and the Learning Center. Those are the 3 that we're most interested in, because if we're looking at readaptive reuse or any kind of change,
Gotcha.
we have to factor that into the
So-
costs.
So I have, what I can, I'm gonna be, I'll send you what I have for the current, and then I have a copy of what was planned in the past and before it got pulled out.
Fine,
And I think that's what you're looking for.
yes.
By building, by
Yeah.
building.
Right, by bill.
I think CIP is a little confusing because it's more by project,
Yes.
versus
So
we
that,
want it by.
I fully understand. So I'm gonna send you this right now, and then I'll have you, and I'll.
Now, and I have to, David, I should as well.
I think we'll get them all, just so we have a comprehensive list, because we've collected all the data on the town buildings as well.
That's correct.
So even though we may not do much with that, at least we'll have it.
You just want to see what the issues are with those 3 school buildings that are coming off.
That's
Like
the
capital.
most important, that would be the highest
Consideration.
priority.
That's like, and that, those tasks were listed in the capital improvement planning. And I have those right now. I'm sending them over to you.
So we can anticipate we might have to incur those costs if there's any change.
If you're gonna keep the buildings, yes. I mean, like, for example, I think on Jeffrey is boilers. And that cost was put in there and it was in part of the 10-year plan. And it's in this capital improvement from the last year's CIP, not this year's, but I can send you last year's. And that'll give you that IDs all the numbers that you're looking for.
Okay,
David,
Sorry about
I would
that.
just- I would just caution everyone that my understanding is that the town, when they voted at the referendum, the town was largely under the impression that Ryerson was going to be demolished.
Correct.
So I don't, we may want to figure out what the costs would have been for Ryerson and have that in our hip pocket. But I don't know that you want to spend too much time thinking prospectively of a use for Ryerson, because that may be leveled as part of the renewals project
but it,
subsequent to.
if the capital, I mean, theoretically, if the capital is reasonable within an adaptive reuse, it may be better to keep the building and reuse it for another purpose and
Sell it.
dispose of something else.
Yeah.
That the town has that may be maybe greater value.
Yeah.
Rather than just having a hold the land with nothing on it. So you see what I'm saying? So,
Or if we were to sell,
Absolutely.
right?
Or
So,
if we were to sell,
if somebody was they were gonna buy and do it, it would be good.
exactly.
We know these are the issues associated with the building,
And you
so.
let them be the people that would knock it
Yeah.
down.
Okay.
Great. Okay, I just got that, Peter. Thank you.
My apology. I still was on the custodial cost in that thing, and I'm sorry about that, but now I got I got where you're coming from.
Okay.
Good reason why we should meet every week, every month.
Well, we're all very busy in December with lots of other things on our mind, so.
Okay, anything, I think that's the only real issue outstanding on the cost database. So with that, unless anybody else has another comment, I'll move on to the strategic value
So you have
exercise.
all-
Turn
You
over.
have all the data for the rest of the town buildings.
Yes, we have, from the DRA report, we have the information that, we're still waiting on that capital list that we never got from, I guess, Peter, I don't know if you, I guess that's part of, see, I mean, at the very outset, our very first meeting, I'm pulling a blank, Peter's predecessor
Bill McMahon.
Bill.
Yeah,
said that he had a spreadsheet that had the history of
Yeah.
stuff, what's been done, as well as what needs to be done.
I have that.
That spreadsheet is also, we don't have that
I
yet.
can get you that.
That's the spreadsheet that we need as well.
Gotcha.
And then we'll be comprehensive in
Yeah.
terms of all our stuff, because I think we have all the
Is that
operation.
the Collier
Operation.
spreadsheet?
That
Or
was
is
the
there
Collier
something
spreadsheet that had all the notes in it,
Right,
how it got pushed out, yeah.
That's like a 10-year and, look, but I didn't realize there was historic stuff.
But we're not using values from the TRA report.
No, I mean, well, we have them, but I mean, they have to be updated. They're so old.
Yeah.
Do you need the fixed asset list from the audit? In terms of book value for buildings, do you care about that?
That's probably helpful.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like, because they have to report every year, there has to be like a accounting basis for them. So
So
that can,
so at least,
oh yeah, I'll ask Stacy to just pull that, because you never know. I find that kind of interesting.
okay. Cool. All right, I'll turn it over to Nick and Charmaine. All right. Give an update on where you are, strategic value, what you've done and where you are now.
So we've visited a number of the buildings and facilities so far. This one we're in now, Arts Barn, gym, Memorial Hall, family services.
I think you're gonna have to speak up a little bit so that Seth can hear you from the microphones.
Sorry, Seth.
And everybody do as well.
From the list that was issued on December 5th, at that meeting we had in the senior center, there were a number of buildings and facilities listed for us to visit and evaluate. So far, we've visited the building we're in now, town campus, the Arts Barn, gym, Memorial Hall, Youth and Family Services, the Visitor Center, and we have not hit LaSage. We have visited Academy, and we have not hit the town garage. We have hit all the other properties. We've evaluated, I think, all the ones that we've been to, based on the evaluation guidelines that David came up with. We've gone back and forth discussing and trying to further define. So, who wants to go through the evaluations? We can do that.
I think it's what kind of, from our perspective, we were hoping that we kind of triage down to what are the really high value versus what are the very low value, and not worry too much about the stuff in the middle. Okay. You know, that was kind of our first step, at least, to get,
Right.
to keep it moving.
I mean, this is the first attempt. There are some deep dives
Sure.
in certain areas that need to be done. But I think if you, and then chime in anytime you think, one of ways, but I think for the ones that were high value, meaning that we felt that their use, their location, their hitting all the buckets of being a good fit for what they are doing and where they are located and their costs accordingly. I would say the top ones was the Youth and Visitor Center, the Powder House,
Youth and Family
You think
Services.
family
Youth
service, yeah.
Youth and Family Services, the Powder House, definitely, because it's just its location, its size, it serves the public as well as its own very well. I think the town campus
Yep,
hits
agreed.
all the
Yep,
buttons.
absolutely.
The town gym,
Did you tour everything at town campus? Did you go to the arts farm too?
yes.
Okay, PE and all
When I
that.
say town campus, I'm really specifically talking about this building.
Town
Town hall.
Town hall, but you, okay. you did-
Sorry.
And we
And then we
Arts
did go,
Barn, police, and then gym separately.
we did go to the gym and definitely that is a high bar because first of all, there's been a significant investment quite recently on the gym floor, and it looks like also it just seems to be a place where everybody knows, comes, and it's used. It's utilized well, its location seems to be working for it.
7 days a week, and it gets a lot of traffic, a lot of use.
Arts Barn, there's flexibility. I think there's flexibility there. We didn't score the Arts Barn as high as we did the gym
Right.
and the town hall. Mainly because it's its own little world. in a way. And in touring it, it also is an interesting building, because in touring it, there's also, I could see where the community loves having that place and all the services it provides, but it also needs some significant attention. I could almost walk through there and easily list, I hate to put it this way, code issues. I mean, it definitely seems to be almost like it's independently handled and nobody's really keeping an eye on what's going on inside. So I think the Arts Barn is definitely something that one might want to put more attention to in terms of how can it be improved, or what flexibility do you have in terms of keeping it there, or maybe placing it somewhere else. But all the other locations that we looked at here in the town campus, including the police department, we took a walk through there, town hall and the gym, we rated quite high in terms of good place, good use, efficient, it's working.
Charmaine, can I ask a question? When you went through the Arts Barn, I guess you did a walkthrough. Did you take into account the programming that goes on there? Because that's a big portion of what we're looking at is the use of the space.
And disclosure, Seth?
Since
I've disclosed this on many occasions.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah, no,
I
I'm just saying, so I don't know if she's aware, but his wife is
Yeah.
very, helps run a lot of the program.
Oh, I think the
Oh, okay.
programming is excellent. And yes, it does definitely provide great things. But the building itself still, I would say, does need a little TLC. There is work that needs to be done in that building. I wouldn't, as a former facilities manager, as I was walking through there, I got a little nervous. You see cords, you see, access issues and space issues. Those types of things are my concern.
Yeah.
It's used, there's no question that I heard from many people and I was not aware, or I just recently became aware of your wife's, I guess, involvement in it. It's a great community opportunity for so many things, for so many people to do things. But I would say my only concern is it does seem though that there isn't one eye on it to sort of make sure that it's safe, it's running efficiently, and there may be some cleanup, some operating cost type items, not capital, that could be done to possibly improve the interior of it.
I will say I'm in a position to know that they have, the fire chief goes through there. They have regular inspections, and in fact, they just they have to comply with, for their summer camp program, they have to comply with the state inspections, and they also have recently complied with a food inspection. So I know I don't know what your background is as a facilities director, and whether you have any specific training in that stuff or not, but I know that they're up to code, if that was one thing you were concerned about.
That's good. And remember, this was just an initial,
Yeah.
not a drill down, so I'll definitely.
So, and just curious though, did you look at the cable access?
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Thanks, you're great.
Yeah, that's when my eyes opened up a little bit.
I thought it might be a TV museum. Actually,
Yeah.
based on some of the equipment.
You should have seen it a year ago.
Yeah, I felt like I was back in the
On
1970s.
TV with the 213 dial. Yeah.
That probably was the
It
main
used some
area
attention.
where the concern was.
Right.
I mean, obviously, the Arts Barn is a unique relationship that has evolved, right? It started out kind of trying to fill a need in town. It's evolved into very successful, like with theater productions and things like that, but there hasn't been a lot of modernization of the space. But they do make it, every year there is inspections, but because of the level of use and the type of productions that are going on there, what you saw was probably consistent with things that evolve as they do their camps and give their productions and things like that. So I know that Peter is very aware.
Just out of curiosity, just one quick question for Seth, maybe you can answer this. Is there any need for the Arts Barn, for the functions in the Arts Barn to be located in the Arts Barn, or could they be located someplace else in town? Or that may make more sense?
Well, the Madison Youth and it's actually it's a nonprofit organization that runs the programming there and that kind of leases the building. And they've put several $100,000 worth of improvements into the building, including all the stage stuff, all the sound and all of the lighting. There's professional soundboard and sound and lighting throughout that building. So and that's really the biggest state. Like you couldn't use the tiny stage at the the Academy building, for example, for the Arts Barn programming. For
I don't know if there's spaces in, like Jeffrey, for example, that might be appropriate to be, is it given its location and giving its use and maybe opening it up?
That was one of the things that Charmaine and I spent a fair amount of time talking about, was the adaptive reuse potential of that building. So one to your question, is there a place that Arts Barn could operate elsewhere? If that were the case, that would be as parking, as adjacency. It's for the most part pretty open inside. So if you were going to fit it out and do something in terms of administrative space, that would be
Tight on
I mean,
administrative space.
there are other concepts that it could be used for. This is
Okay.
kind of a public safety complex, so,
Yeah,
but yeah.
But I would suggest if there's interest in trying to move that program, that you contact the executive director of Friends of Madison Youth. Her name is Robin Klaskin, and she can fill you in with much greater detail than I can. But it's a very uniquely used space. They have dances and socials for the kids in the elementary through high schools, all kinds of after hours and weekend and summer activities and all of that. So it's a very heavily used building.
all right, well, let's move on. What are some of the other observations? Kind of getting into the middle, or I'm kind of curious what you said at the lower end.
It would have been the Arts Barn. We did walk through Memorial Hall. I'm sorry, Academy this afternoon, which was my first time through. It was an experience, to say the least. That's I think that there's a plan for that one in the works already. So I'm sure how much we want to go into detail on that.
No, that's fine. I think we're all probably understanding that any vacant space that's been abandoned for a number of years is probably going to fall in the bottom.
Yeah.
And I think the last building we didn't really talk about was Memorial Hall building. And I got to tour that, with Peter a while ago. And I assigned it a high historical value, definitely. And property adjacency, I assigned it a 5 as well because of its accessibility on the green to public and its presence. It has a very, very distinct presence. Core function, I put at 3 because I think it's still finding its way. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to look how you want to use that space. But the one thing that I found that was quite remarkable that I didn't realize is its historical content. There is a lot of historical materials in that building. And you could almost transform the Memorial Hall building into like a true Madison historical building with all of its history. It's just all sitting in the back of a room on all these shelves. It was like we found diamonds in the rough when we were walking through.
Did you get to see some of the original designs of the building, the original
Yes.
beauty
Yeah.
of the building?
Yes.
It's a spectacular
And
building.
paperwork.
Pictures and yeah, they have some stuff displayed, but for the most part, the lion's share of it is in the vault, in the basement.
Because I mean, they just built a building within a building,
Yeah.
basically, is
Yeah.
what they did. They built.
So I think the way it's working is working, it seems to be working fine. I think it could do more, but I also think it could also take on a sort of a different direction with all of that rich opportunity material that they have there. Your limitation is that it is an older building. There's 2 stories, stair access only.
No, there is, no, they
But
they
it's
do have an
in the-
elevator, yeah, they have ground floor, they have a ground floor addition. Yeah.
So there's a lot of potential, I think, in the Memorial Hall building in terms of it's servicing the public in some way with the history that it has and maybe redefining its use instead of it just being a building where people go in and meet and set up
Well,
meetings.
our probate's there, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And then there's the archives as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I just saw a lot of opportunity in that building. It really was an eye opener. But again, there needs to be deeper dives in these buildings, but these are just the initial.
Do you have other buildings that you plan on visiting?
You were DPW, right? You wanted to go to the DPW garage?
Yeah, we wanna-
Yeah, the garages and,
That was a be back in time a little bit too.
Osage as well.
In the field.
Osage is one. Also.
Yeah, Lesage Field.
Well, you going to the Lesage property?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
we have not been to the senior center yet,
yeah, not over there.
but that's
Oh, yeah,
just
but-
straight.
okay.
You know, I think the ones that, topics that come up a lot when we're going through this was property adjacency and, or function or / community use, right? And, you've got a number of buildings, we've got a number of buildings on Main Street that in some ways are underutilized, you know. And have a-
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt, but I can barely hear you. Could you maybe speak a little louder into the,
Yeah, sorry. So some of the criteria that we felt was more important than others were property adjacency, community use, or core function. And you really got 2 areas for that, right? You've got Main Street with what we feel are rather other underutilized buildings. Certainly Academy is underutilized, is vacant for now. And then as Charmaine was just talking about Memorial Hall, but then also town campus and the property adjacency here. And I think I'll speak for both of us, and feel free to jump in, Charmaine, that we do feel there's property adjacency and value in this campus, in this location between all the services that are here, to have administrative, it may be bursting at the seams in terms of administrative space here, but to have it all in one location is certainly convenient. And then, you know, we kind of question, can you get it all? And can you put town campus down on Main Street? Can you move all of that to that location? It just seems like that'd be an awful lot of services, an awful lot of departments and functions that are all in one location that would be very difficult logistically to make work in terms of traffic, parking, things like that. So
And is there really a strong reason to possibly justify that large of a relocation? Right now, seems like everything seems to be working well, functioning. So there just didn't seem to be like, I'll compare it to the visitors and youth services. I keep screwing up the name.
Youth and family.
Youth and family services. They definitely have an issue. They are definitely bursting at the seams. They definitely provide an amazing, incredibly important service to the community. So of all these properties, I have to say that we reviewed today, I would say that one is the one that truly has a need. whether it's to expand it from the back end and make it larger, or move to a vacant property such as whatever.
Plan now is.
Their plan is the academy,
right?
yeah, that's what they think. But I would say of all of these, as we ruminate through all the possible ways we can handle these properties and their flexibility, let's say, to relocate, I would say that one definitely has a need today to be looked at and discussed.
And we
Well,
did,
thank you. I know you have to go, and I want to be sensitive of your
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So I want to get your update on the 15 properties that Jeannie's looking at. So
Yeah,
we can come back to you guys if you don't, but I just want to make sure I don't
yeah, so she
lose
actually
you without
did,
getting that update.
and it was funny, for some reason, it's not letting me send out an email from my iPad. She did I don't think she got through everything, but she has a spreadsheet, she has comments, she's been researching, she got through a lot. And so what I could do is,
Just for the
Tomorrow?
committee's
yeah,
benefit, because what
Yeah.
we identified and went down was the bus garage on Nathan's Lane was one property. The surf club maintenance area was the second target area. The DPW site on was the third. There's the site that's abutting 79, that's potentially for the over-under for the railroad tracks. There's a large area there.
Are you able to share?
so I would send it to Peter, for some
Send it to
reason, it won't let me
Yeah.
do multiple
Did you
addresses,
did
something
you send it me
Peter.
or no?
I just sent it to you, because I could do one address. So what she did was, let's see, I'm just looking here. She got through Nathan's Lane, Surf Club, Bower Farm, Pops Road. She just put a bunch of notes, the owners, and so she's made progress. She thought what was very interesting was the Surf Club. And so this is where I think there would have to be more of like an expertise review of the deeds, because there used to be deed restrictions about people being able to put like changing facilities on the beach and stuff, she was telling me, so it was kind of interesting, and I know that whole that was all carved up over the years, and like some homes had deed beach rights and all this other stuff, so it's a little complicated, I guess she was I remember she was right before the holidays, she was doing some of this, so I just sent it to Peter, if you wanna send it
I'm
around.
not popping up here in a minute, yep.
It's work in progress, but she got through, just taking notes and stuff as she read through the deeds. So that I can have her continue, and I know, Peter, have you talked to David about how the intern's starting next week?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have,
okay.
you guys.
So I don't know if this is something you want the intern to pick up, she's just kind of doing this on the side when she can.
Yeah.
So you could talk about maybe expanding this or building on it too with her work, so, yeah, I do need to go, I promised I'd get back, but good conversation, so, and happy to give you maybe some background. I know you toured Academy, I wouldn't mind talking to you a little bit about that, so, and getting your feedback on your experience, hopefully you wore a mask, when you went through there.
We were
We thought
banking on
about
the
it.
fact it was so cold,
Oh,
that we'd be okay.
yeah, you'd be good. I'll circle back with you tomorrow, and you can
Sure.
let me know
Yeah,
the
here's
takeaways that
your-
we should be working on, and you're good doing a work plan with him for the intern starting, right?
Yes.
Okay, good,
I'll-
okay, good, thanks, guys, sorry
Yeah,
about
not a problem. This is
Okay.
David, this is what she was
Yeah.
just saying, send us.
Yeah. All right, great.
Bye, Peggy.
Everybody, thank you.
You too,
Can you
thank
blow
you,
that up a little bit?
Sure.
and happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you, thanks. Oh, oh.
Did I send you that presentation that we did back
Back in November? Yes.
November 18th?
Yep.
Yeah, maybe that's the easiest way to
You wanna
pull
go
up
ahead
so
and
that
pull that
people
up?
can
Okay.
see the
Sure.
properties we're looking at.
Stop sharing for a second.
Yeah.
Sure, I could just email you the,
I'm bringing it up right here, Town of Madison, the
Yep.
property database. Is that what-
no, it says vacant land / underutilized land evaluation. Is there a way I can share my screen? No, no,
Probably not, that's not it, right?
no.
No.
It looks like, it's a
Gotcha.
PowerPoint presentation.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but I can forward it to you right now.
Oh, here it is. I got it right here. Town of Madison ad hoc facility, vacant land, underutilized land evaluation, right? This one here,
It should say November 18th.
November 18th, yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Pop that up. Go. There we go.
So what happened was John and I worked with Peggy and Aaron Mannix and Peter. And we kind of went through that huge database of all 82 properties. And when John and I went through it, we just said, if you go to the next slide here, we kind of identified properties that were basically more than 5 acres. There's a lot of small little bits and pieces of properties that have been acquired over time. So we kind of took generally vacant or underutilized space, greater than 5 acres, potential for improved depth for use, and actually we identified it was 935 acres of land, net of Rockland was 288. So one of the questions is how much of Rockland might be adaptive reuse or not? That was it. So if you go down, if you actually just go to each slide, you can go and see each one individually. The first place, one of them, these are in no particular order. So the Nathan Lang Bus Garage is 6.5 acres. It's right abutting a commercial space, and it's really not in geographically a great space from a usage standpoint for where you want to put a bus garage.
Yeah, the purple denotes flooding.
Yeah, so we were able to pull up wherever the wetlands overlays
And
are.
so the road running horizontal across the page, is that 79?
No,
Kind of
that's
This,
Route 1.
this right here is Route 1.
Route
these are
1,
the
and that's the train
tracks.
tracks is right there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So, and the big vacant parcel that's kind of upper left-hand corner is part of Land and
Over
Lumber.
here.
Land and Lumber, and they own the piece across that way, and then there's another farms that are below it.
Right here.
So that was one, the wetlands is in purple there on that site. Next one was in the surf club. We were looking at that maintenance area in particular, and how could that be readapted for something more appropriate. The next property, scroll down, was the DPW, and the town, you can see the DPW garage is right there on the Cops Road corner. But then the town also owns the adjacent property right next to it that has a little green dot on it. So those two together are 4.4 acres in combination between, when you add those two pieces together. So again, given that it's in a prime residential area, it's a potential opportunity area.
David, quick question. Is there a railroad easement there though, like an Amtrak or US?
Oh, no, that's why we've assigned these properties, and Jeannie is looking at going through title searches on all those things to find out those kinds of, whether there's any kind of deed restriction or easements or anything like that we just don't know about. We're just going off of the basic maps and the adjacencies and vacancy issues at this moment, just to triage them out.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking because it's such a narrow strip that if there's an easement there, it could take up half of the use of that property.
Yeah.
So, okay, thanks.
The next area is that's the on 79. You see the road going north and south is 79, and then the east and west is the train station. So that's in that blue area, which is, it's considered forested wetland. It's not wetlands. So somehow they're getting easement, or they're getting, the state is getting by to put the over under, which is going to take up a chunk of the northern part of that. So we want to understand what is the potential there, but that's 4.75 acres. And it's obviously right on 79. The next property was the Bauer Farm, not the actual part that was in use, but the east area of Bauer Farm off of Cops Road. It's 22.8 acres, and it's basically just vacant right now with no wetlands. And I do believe, and one of the reasons we're looking at all the deeds and the historical gifting issues, because my recollection, and I'm not positive, was that Bauer Farm was also for affordable housing, would be a potential option for that area.
So the area on the right does have a little bit of wetland there, correct?
Up in here.
Up in the upper, the very top,
here.
where up that left, right at the very top, right there, tiny bit.
Yeah, and then the purple, that's, if you follow that purple line down toward,
I'm not sure what that is, I don't know if there's a little stream there that goes through.
There is a brook that goes through there. Yeah.
Is that the area where people have their vegetable gardens?
Yes.
No,
That's over here.
that's on the other side, where all the huge
Oh,
wetlands
I
are.
see.
That's where all the vegetable gardens and all those events are held on the other side. So really, I mean, Aaron said that they occasionally use that for overflow parking. They run
Yes,
out of
This
space.
area.
Yes, several times a year.
So,
Mostly on the corner on the.
that one corner that's
southern
flat.
part of the lot we're looking at.
so, but I mean, it's a huge, 22.8 acres, a lot of land there. So, and the next one, were again, more properties. This was, we weren't sure what this was. This is right next to the school, and it's 3.64 acres
It's
between the
wetland.
high school and the new school.
Yeah.
We're not sure if that's part of the new construction.
Well,
there.
Neck River
No.
Elementary is at the lower left corner.
Yeah, so that's way down below. So
Yes.
we're just not sure what that is.
Where Peters, is that your cursor, Peter?
Right here? Yeah.
You've got a FEMA floodplain that runs right along there.
Right here.
Exactly.
And so
That's the
that
Neck River, north to south through there.
Neck River, and that's all wetland there.
Yeah, but the green dot is the property we're talking
This
about.
one here,
It's
yeah.
3.6 acres, and, for example, the bus garage is 2-point-something acres, not even that they're using, so
Yeah, if you shoehorned it in that
you
upper
could
right
shoehorn
corner.
it up the right
Sure.
corner. Yeah, there's an option to put it next to the schools and, that kind of stuff. Interesting concept, possibly, who knows? That building just right behind it, to the right of it is Peter's office, and the maintenance garage. So the next property, again, we're just identifying things that were just kind of stuck out. All the ones with the green dot, the bulky waste site is where you see the scarred part. All the other properties with the green dots are still owned by the town of Madison. In total, it's 79.4 acres, right there. on
You add
Ridge Road.
that to Rockland, just taking a pretty good chunk.
Yeah.
Of the total.
And so and there's, and it was interesting that when we looked at it, one of those properties, I think it was the one to the right, was acquired in 2018 by the town.
Yeah.
They bought it. So it's kind of interesting, that whole area needs to be understood, what can be done, what can't be done. And it seems like a significant opportunity for us to look at that.
So historically, there is no history of any attempt of any possibility of using that, no plans?
I mean,
Just bought the
it's
land and-
south of, as you go south to Green Hill, that's all residential now. And so obviously it's a strong residential opportunity.
Seems like it's tailor-made for DPW
Yeah,
maintenance.
Well, you also have to understand that to the other side of the wetlands is the driving range on Route 1 Kleins. It's right there.
Oh, clients, okay.
Pines Driving Range, so that's that big property, and they're opening that up. So that's, you know, I mean, he's been trying to sell that property for a long time and been looking at options as he's retired and moving on.
But that plot on the left that has the minimal amount of forest and wetland there, that's a relatively level lot.
Yes, and then the only issue is that you have the water tower in those.
The cell tower.
The cell tower and the water tower are those two blocks in that site. But again, it's
Yep, it's an opportunity.
it's an opportunity to look at something to identify opportunity. The next area is next to Ryerson.
Yeah.
So you look at, you know, Ryerson and Brown area, it's 53 acres, the whole thing. It's the Ryerson Brown.
Put this up here.
The town also owns adjacent properties, and those are dedicated with those green dots. That's another
22 was it?
22,
21.
23
22,
acres.
yeah.
It's about another 23 acres, and it's right in the middle of a residential area, minimal wetlands. It backs up to High Hill.
Is that where Connecticut Water has a number of wells?
No,
The property on the right?
Right up. Oh,
I don't believe so.
I thought that the wells were like on the, what is it, Lyle Drive side or something, like across 79? Is that not the case?
they're not over here.
I don't think they're over
They're in
there.
the back of, they're in the back of Brown.
That
Oh,
really
okay.
intense area is Legend Hill.
Yeah.
This area.
Right.
Right there, so.
There's quite a terrain is steep there on that property, but again, an opportunity.
Yeah.
Nice size property.
Keep going down, and then you got the Rockland, which is 600, 500, 600 acres or something, I think is.
It's right up top here. Hold on, I went too far. 647.
647 acres, and it's a question of, you know, is 10%, 20% is 120 acres, you know? You know, obviously, a lot of it's being used for trails and other things, but potentially, is there something there?
Mhm.
So that, I think, was all of them. I think that was the last one. So
That's it.
those were the ones we identified. You know, we triaged out of the 82 properties the town owns. So it made our focus, narrowed our focus quite a bit. And these are the properties we've moved on to.
Mhm.
Jeannie, and I'm hoping that before next meeting, we'll be able to have a presentation. I'd like to have a presentation on this before the next meeting. So whether we use the intern or Jeannie and
That would help, yeah.
and to do that, I also would like, once we have I think over the course of the next month, what would make sense would be to complete the title searches,
Mhm.
move those title searches over with the intern to Erin Mannix,
Mhm.
and have her look at what is based on the titles and everything else, what are the kind of potential uses
Yep.
that those properties would have.
Gotcha.
I think that-
David, can I ask what, my understanding is that a big portion of Rockland, if not the whole thing, is called the Rockland Preserve. Is that owned by the town but preserved somehow? Is it dedicated to open space? Because that would,
That's why I want to look at the deeds and the information. My understanding was that they call it the Rockland Preserve only for the hiking trails, and it's a naming protocol, but I don't know that for sure, so.
and I do know at one point, probably 10, 12 years ago, there was discussion of potentially building a municipal golf course there, and they actually did some studies.
Actually, that was in the early mid-90s, when I was on EDC, I was chairman of EDC, and that was brought to us as an option of doing something there for development. It just didn't pan out. We couldn't get a developer interested in that
Yeah.
action, but yeah, they looked at it for that. But there's, I don't know how much of the 647 acres are dedicated to the riding trails. I mean, I know they've developed a series of off-road bike trails there, and so and I understand that they're quite
Very
substantial
popular.
and very popular, and So we just need to understand what the relationships are and what those things are there, because that's a fairly significant amount of space for the town. So
David,
that's our goal.
somebody who's a bit new to Madison, is there any chance of seeing where all these vacant locations are on like,
One big,
on one
Town
map?
map?
So I can look at a Madison map? and go,
Yes,
this is
yeah,
Rockland and-
that'd be another great thing.
So
have,
if you go
already
to
turned
the-
to.
Oh, that'd be super.
If you go on the town website, so can you just pull up the
Sure.
town website, Peter?
Do you want me to go right to the GIS?
Yeah. Yeah, go right to the town clerk's office and, the assessor and go to the GIS. And you can, you pull it up and then you punch in the town of Madison, it'll show you all the properties.
Okay,
It's pretty cool. And that's how we used it, because we put the wetlands overlay on these properties and we were just going right through them, and that's how we kind of broke out. We sorted them by size, and then when we were going, and then there were a handful of them that were more than 3 or 5 acres, but they were all wetlands, or they were all some other type of dynamic that wasn't going to work. So that's why we said, all right, we're gonna try to look at those. But I think the overlap is that when you look at it, the surf club garage, the bus garage, and the DPW makes sense for you guys to look at as the
yeah,
next
we
step
kind
for you
of
to
briefly
get
talked
those,
about
to
it.
really go through those 3 pieces, and then also to get up towards, to get through Ryerson and Jeffrey, and that Jansen property, we gotta find out what the heck that is.
Yeah. So this is the GIS and you
So
can,
if you type in Madison, town of Madison.
yeah, it's right here. I'm just gonna zoom up on it.
So go to the Madison website and.
No, it's in in that blue box, if you type in town of Madison.
Oh, gosh, you're right.
And just click on that.
And then you,
It's gonna list all the properties.
Everything that's a green dot is a town of Madison property. And you can
Okay.
see them all, so you can zoom in and you find, so on that
because I'd like to drive
that
up and
presentation
see.
I'm gonna send you, I thought I shared that presentation with everybody.
You did.
You did.
Yeah, okay. There's the map number, so you can punch in the map number right in there. So for example, so
Do you want to go to
So
Rock?
like the bulky waste site, you just type in 77-20, which is part of the,
There it is right here.
and you click it, and now you just
Oh,
zoom
you
in.
just pin it, yeah,
Yeah, and it pins,
perfect.
and you can see exactly where everything is. So that's the easiest way. If you go to the, trying to remember, I think you gotta go to the toggle on the right there, those maps, and then you can put on the overlays with the, or is it below? Maybe it's below the overlay for the,
It's up here, right here. There we go.
you can show it shows the wetland.
Base map. There we go.
No, I don't think I think it's in the box to the left. I think you have to scroll down on that blue box on the left.
Box to the left, okay. What's that? I'm dancing around. I have actually the image of us on screen and I have to move that around. every once in a while. Over here,
Yeah.
butters.
Let's take it.
You want to, what do you, like the wetlands and stuff like that? Is that what you want to
Yeah,
say?
but I'll send
I
out,
sort of
we
understand.
can send the
Don't worry
instructions
about it.
out. All right, so rather than wasting everybody's time.
Sure.
Yeah,
But it's not, I know it's on the,
Yeah.
when you pull it up, it's on the bottom of that box when you go through, you can, oh, I'm sorry, see it says layers on the far left-hand corner? See the tab on the left-hand side? of it?
Gotcha.
It Says
Yeah,
layers
right.
there, that's how
There we
you
go.
hit the layers.
There you go.
oh,
And-
perfect.
And when you open that up, you can click on the wetlands right there.
Or, yes.
and it'll,
So I just hit I hit the flood zone, so.
yeah, and then if you do over on the right-hand side, do the kind of vertical, the satellite map type of deal, then it gives you everything. It's pretty cool, that you just scroll down to the bottom there. Yeah, there you go. See? So then you can see that one property. And then if you click on at the top, it'll also go take you to the field card that'll tell you when the property was acquired, what's its current value, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so there's the vision card for that.
That's
So
great.
it clicks right in and it tells you everything you want to know about it. And if you also click on, it has a site that says abutters. And you click on that, and it'll tell you all the properties that are within so many feet of that property. You're up to like a half a mile, and you can see who owns what property. All the names will come up, and you can see all that kind of stuff. So it's owned, so at Seth's point, if it's owned by the railroad, or there's an easement or something like that, that's how you can come up and get to that. So it's a great tool, and it's right on the assessor's website in the town. So you go to town,
That's great.
the assessor, and it'll say GIF. Go right to it. Okay, so hopefully our commitment on getting that done is kind of a next meeting goal. And hopefully you guys can look at those 3 properties or 4 properties that are on this list that you haven't looked at yet. And that kind of ties those pieces together.
They mentioned Surf Club, DPW, Surf Club, more sort of maintenance area.
Surf Club, DPW.
Ryerson. Do you want to see Ryerson
Yeah, look at Ryerson.
and Jeffries?
Yeah, Ryerson and Jeffrey and the Jansen property that's adjacent, that's behind Peter. And Surf Club.
And the Lesage property, which is adjacent to Jeffrey.
Lesage?
Lesage. It's a field next to Jeffrey, like just north of Jeffrey.
The old
And
18th
you
century house.
probably should just drive by and drive through and walk to that property next to the Bauer Farm. Across the street, that area as well.
Yeah, that's where they put overflow parking during the Bauer Park Festival. It's right across Copes Road from Bauer Park.
Just walk her down.
Any other comments on anybody, Jude, or this is relatively new for you? Yeah, I know, you've only seen this twice, but, okay. All right, well, with that, I'll go on to new business. We have the calendar for next, for the remaining part of this year. It's basically the same. I'm trying to think, did Rachel send that out to everybody?
Bless you.
I thought she sent the remaining
She
meetings out,
sent it to
yeah.
me, I know.
Raquel, did you send that out?
Or Raquel, if you have it, can you put it up on the screen?
Yeah, 1 second.
Thank you. I think there was only one conflict with, on Juneteenth, we had to move it one day, to Wednesday rather than, because the town offices are closed on that day.
David, do you want to, we'll get together, you want to call me tomorrow and we'll get a list of things for this gentleman to,
Can we do it next week, because I'm leaving tomorrow?
oh, okay, sure. He's coming Tuesday, so we have some, I have some other stuff that I got him start on, that I was gonna have him start on, organizing our preventive
Well, let's
maintenance
talk
programs.
Tuesday morning.
Okay, great, perfect. Maybe we'll we'll put him on the call. And that way you can talk directly to him. Great kid from UConn,
What's his major?
engineering. We got him
So I
on,
can't pull it up from my laptop here from home, but it's basically the same, the third Thursdays of the month at 6:30 p.m. with just Juneteenth being the only change.
okay,
What would be the only change?
Juneteenth.
Oh, gotcha, okay, perfect.
Here we go. I have it here. So the dates would be, I'll just lay it out, February 20th, March, these are all Thursdays, March 20th, April 17th, May 15th, June 18th, which is a Wednesday instead of a Thursday, July 17th, August 21st, September 18th, October 16th, November 20th, and December 18th.
I'll email that out to you tomorrow.
Okay, so if you'll email that, but first off, what I'll do is, can I have a motion to accept those dates?
Motion, I'd like to make a motion.
So move. Second.
Second, thank you. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Great, thank you. So we'll, so Raquel, you know that that's now been approved, so that can be posted to the town website, and please distribute that to everybody in the committee so everybody can lock up their calendars appropriately.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to open up for a bit of a discussion on priorities and tasks. My hope is that not, over the past 6 months or so, we've really been assembling a lot of information, I think. And I think we're at the point now where we have enough information to be dangerous but not effective. So, I really think that we need to set some goals and priorities, and I'd like to open it up for discussion to get everybody's opinion on this, to say, what do we want to, what are some of the tasks we want to achieve over the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter of this year, so that we can kind of put some stakes in the ground and get some follow-ups for people. And so I thought I'd throw that out there for discussion, see what people would think, if they think that's a good thing to go. Yes, Seth?
So one of the things that's like a hot item in town right now is Academy School, and whether it's going to become a community center and what's going on with that project. And I sense that it's probably going to move forward. It may need some more process. Might need a vote for something or other. And I know that opponents have been lining up, and it may be an overstated small minority of people in town, or it may be larger than that. I don't really know. I sense it's, the similar 20, 23 people who comment on Facebook all the time. But regardless, there seem to be a lot of assertions about space usage in town. And, oh, we have so much space to do all these programs in town. Why do we need a community center? And they want to like kind of relitigate whether we need a community center, even though there was a town vote by referendum where people expressed by a pretty good margin a preference to have a community center. I think that, if there's any reason, I understand that the work we're doing is like longer range for the most part, and we're trying to create a foundation for strategic thinking about facility usage and town property usage. However, I kind of feel like if there's any important use for this committee that would serve the interests of the town, like in the near term, it would be to try and get a handle on what's the real deal with space usage in town, because we may have square footage in this building, in that building. People may be stating, whether it's exaggerated or under exaggerated or whatever it may be, statements about oh, the senior center, no one ever uses that, it's so underutilized, and now that we have a huge library that's 8 metric blocks long, everybody's committee meeting should be able to fit in that one building on the same day every week. And so it just seems like if we can give some kind of focused attention to actual space utilization for the types of proposed uses that would occur in the proposed Academy Community Center building as it is planned, then that could shed some important light and bring a factual analysis that could help the town navigate through that. So I would
How would we do that?
request that we kind of front load something that concretizes our study of the types of use cases that are projected for the Academy Community Center.
I guess the question is how best to do that. I mean, part of what came out of today's meeting to some degree was that we talked about several facilities that are obviously the three school buildings that will not be utilized in the near future are out there. The Memorial Town Hall obviously is not as utilized as potentially could be, and potentially with renovation. And we talked about a couple other options as well, a couple other spaces. What would happen if more of a community space building was added at the Surf Club, for example, by moving the bus garage or by moving the maintenance shed and opening that up. You have parking and you have, that could be another opportunity to do something like that there. So, we're kind of getting to some of those issues, I think, through the back door, but how would we get the question is, how would we get the statistical information, the factual information, if you will, on utilization rates, and functional needs? I mean, we can get the functional needs, obviously, from the committee that's designing Academy. But the question is, how do we get defined, how would we get the utilization information of how those things are being currently utilized or not overutilized, if you will?
And that's a little bit of the problem that we face as a committee is if it's like pulling a yarn on a sweater, you pull one and it has this downhill effect on everything else.
It's a big balloon, every time you squeeze it, it pops another direction.
Yeah, or mercury, whatever.
You have as much experience as anybody on this utilization type stuff and evaluation. How would you tackle something like that?
It's a great question. I mean, we have square footage as a building. I think you could probably whittle that down.
You're gonna have to speak up because I'm not sure Jude and everybody can hear
We
you.
have this with square footage of each building. We could probably boil that down a little bit more to, actual occupiable space, right? You take corridors out, you take electrical closets, mechanical spaces out, and then figure out how many folks are working in there, what those hours of operation are. We could try and come up with how much the general public is using some of these spaces. I think that would be difficult for places like the town gym. But Youth and Family Services tracks how many people come through there. Welcome Center does the same thing. So,
I guess we do know pretty simply that we will have, between the three schools and Memorial Town Hall, we can identify amount of probably more square footage than is proposed for Academy.
That's the question I had, is what is proposed for Academy?
We can get that, that there's a committee that has a program, and actually it's out for bid, I think, right now. But I mean, I think that the big question on Academy is if the costs are going to come in at such an exorbitant above the budget, how can you move forward with that project without more another vote or another town approval? So I think that's what's driving the whole concept of so then trying to say either it should or shouldn't go, that it shouldn't be done without the town approving the capital, incremental capital expenditure. I think that's one of the major issues that are out there. But so I think that's the important point, is that can we identify underutilized square footage right now and what the layout of that underutilized square footage or underutilized footprints for the town.
But I also think that another part of the analysis that we may be overlooking that we would have to overlay is what is the type of use that's being proposed, and is it consistent with the use case of the building that you're measuring the square footage and the usage? Because, for example, there may be uses for the senior center that are inconsistent with a senior center use case. For example, you might very well be able to house meetings like this, town committee meetings and commission and whatever meetings at the senior center, because it's just people meeting, it's adults meeting. You might not want to have Boy Scout meetings there because there's a physical aspect and kids running around. They could knock over a senior and break their hip. You know what I mean? So, you have to, there's also kind of almost a subjective overlay when you start talking about, oh yeah, well, there's square footage in that building and it's totally underutilized. Well, is it really?
For example, though, I mean, they talk about commercial kitchens or kitchen type of commercial kitchen classes, teaching classes for that kind of stuff. Oh, well, we have commercial kitchens in Jeffrey, for example, right? You got a commercial kitchen in a school. So, there are functions out there. So maybe that's an interesting thing. Should we take, I guess the question you're raising is, should we just take the functions of Academy and take the 4 or 5 existing buildings we know that we have footprint and utilization issues for, and see how those things align?
And then the other question is, as a committee, we might be able to myopically study square footage, usage, maintenance cost per square foot, and things like that. And we might come up with an idea that says, oh, Jeffrey School has a kitchen, has a commercial kitchen. We recommend that maybe, the Academy Center, community center project can be reduced a bit by taking the cooking classes out of that and having them at Jeffrey instead. But as a committee, we don't have any control over, well, what if the town leadership decides that it's a better plan to sell the Jeffrey property to a commercial interest or to a developer who's going to build affordable housing that's within a mile or whatever of the train station.
Right.
Or
That's
if you're talking Jeffrey, you're also talking about those maintenance costs that we're currently not in the CIP because they're not planning on replacing that 70-year-old boiler right now because they're not anticipating a use for it. So we can find perhaps space in some of these schools that are going to be unoccupied. But then how could we recommend anything without knowing what it's going to cost to get those buildings in shape where you could actually use them for these activities?
So here's the thought. Let's learn from history a bit. When Academy stopped being a school and started putting aside and was turned over to the town, and the town took forever to figure out what to do with it, didn't do the maintenance and didn't do the things. Now, all of a sudden, we have a building that can't be modified within the budget that we're expecting it to have. So maybe one of the short-term things are that we should be saying, before you just abandon the CIP stuff, let's keep Band-Aids and keep these buildings in reasonable condition so that we can preserve our options.
Like maintain them instead of mothballing them, for example.
Yeah, correct.
So you
Correct.
can keep code compliance
Yes.
and not have to reset code to modern.
Absolutely.
It's got to be watertight.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
first
thing.
and foremost.
Yeah, so, and I think well,
You
it's
want
an interesting
maintenance
proposal. It's an
integrity.
interesting shift in focus for us as a committee. And I think we have to lay it out for everybody if that's something that we want to do. I would suggest that you know, part of the reason why we wanted to identify a lot of those vacant lands is because when we did the strategic things, when you have adjacency issues like at Hand and you know, at the high school and the middle school, you know, at Jeffrey, you know, you don't really want to lose that property, and that's probably not something you'd want to sell versus the things on Ridge Road, for example. have a higher value to be released, we would think. So maybe there's part of that. That's one part of the statement, I think, that we can make as a committee. And the second part, but we need to understand some of those other properties, where those things can go or where they can be released to. And then I think if we do break out what are the activities that are planned for Academy, and then kind of say, okay, these are some of the open spaces we have. Where's the overlap, and how does the program become modified? Because maybe you knock down half the building and you have enough money to fix the front part and preserve some of those things, but yet move some of the theater type things into Memorial Town Hall, or the kitchen things to Jeffrey, or or to Ryerson, or whatever. You know, I'm not sure what the answer is, but you know, at this stage, maybe that's the next activity that kind of ties these 3 or 4 disparate pieces we've been working on together.
And we also have to be mindful of our charge and of our limitations of authority, because when the town has votes on things, when the town has to vote on things, we can recommend things, right? But, you know, it's almost like water under the bridge that we have no authority to undo if we take a strong position on Academy, for example. And if we suggest that, well, we think we should scuttle Academy and move because this can be moved here, that can be moved
I don't
there.
think we should take a position that way, personally. Yeah. Wouldn't recommend. I think we need to have the facts see the light of day and allow the people that have the authority to take good facts. I mean, I think our charge is to give them facts. Yes.
Yeah.
And
They have no authority.
right. And so I think our charge
And
is
we
to
have
give.
no agenda. We're just pros and cons. We offer the information, we have the facts.
But I do think that if we can present facts and let people see those facts and let them come to those decisions based on facts, they're going to come to better decisions on these things rather than us trying to make a particular recommendation. I don't think our position, I think, you know, maybe at the end of this quarter, we need to do an interim report that is given to the Board of Trustees, the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed, that says, you know, we need to look at these are what we've come up with over the past year since this committee's been formed, and these are the major issues that we're seeing that need to be evaluated, and so that we can lay out and tell people these are the facts we're trying to assemble, and or the facts we're trying to, and the facts we know. I mean, we know there's a couple hundred acres of land that the town is not being utilized right now. And so before you start thinking about selling properties that are adjacent to existing complexes in the town, why not look at those properties first? There's a statement I think we can make that's fact-based, and I think was very effective. We can look and say, we do know that there are certain buildings that are highly utilized and other buildings that are not well utilized. And we know there are demands out there. I mean, we know there are demands for space for town offices, for example. We know there are demands for space for, a commercial kitchen, and for social space and for meeting space. can they be accommodated in some portion or another by the open spaces that are being identified? So maybe that's our next first quarter job is to generate that kind of a report. I'll throw that out there for comment.
I mean, I think the danger in that is if we just say, here's all the space that's available for use, and we don't put any context on it, then you're just in effect, you're giving more fodder for some people to say, see, I told you we don't need a community center. And again, the town, I'm not taking a position in favor of the community center here. What I'm saying is the town already voted for a community center. And you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a loud minority of voices fighting against it and saying, see, I told you, see, I told you so. And some of the facts they're citing it seems to me, are not necessarily, some of the things that they're asserting are not necessarily factual. And I don't know if our committee is capable of either moving quickly enough or providing the kind of data that would help there. That's why, I'm still toying with that. That's why I suggested maybe we could try. But, if you just put out there like, oh, there's Jeffrey and there's Ryerson and there's, all these things that, and here's the square footage of those, it's not going to be with any context, and it's going to cause a collateral attack on an existing town project that was already voted on by by the town voters.
It's gonna have to be voted on again, right? And that's what happened.
Yeah, but what's going to
years
be voted on, my understanding after watching the last meeting on this, the presentation to the Board of Selectmen, is that they can't undo the referendum. All they can do is vote, for example, to take all of the grant money that was found and already like won and vote, because what the referendum said is we're going to have a community center and we're not going to spend more than, I think it was $16.9 million on it. Right. But what you can do is vote to say, all right, instead of having to use the grant money towards that 16.9, we're going to vote to use that grant money to offset the difference between 16.9 million and what it's actually going to cost. Right. So in other words, the town can vote at this point to extend the budget to meet all the money that came in through grants in order to have the project go forward. Or the town leadership can abandon potentially the project, but I don't think that the conditions would allow it to so far, according to what they were saying.
What it would be, yes, Seth, would be a vote to use the grant money to make up the difference.
Yeah.
And not to increase any bonding that
Exactly.
already approved. The town's approved up to 15.9 in bonding.
15.9, sorry.
We're not gonna increase that bonding level, but get the town's permission to use the grant money, which right now you can't offset the grant money against the 15.9.
What's the value of the grant?
The value of the grants is it's under 8 million.
7.6 million, I think they got so far.
7.6.
So you got less than 23 million for that job?
I think they're
Sure. Yeah.
I think their bids would come in at that level.
And if not, if they vote no, then I guess maybe the town could abandon the project, but then they lose the 7.6 million
They'd lose all the grant
leveraged
money. And they've also already bonded out like 6 million towards all the work that's been done so far, the studies and all of that.
And there's reason to believe that the town would vote to accept the grant money because they still want the value of the
If the project was
Clever that they
reduced in
voted.
scope, Jude, maybe you can answer that question. Let's say the project was reduced in scope to under $20 million.
Yeah,
You
I
still
think-
use the grant money and then not use all the,
not
Yeah.
used.
they use 7 million of the grant money and 13 million of the bond. Can that be
Yeah.
done?
I know that I have not participated in any of the Academy Building Committee's meetings. So I'm going mostly on what I've learned through the Board of Finance. And what I understand is that the Academy Facility Building Committee has looked very hard at and has drawn back on what it originally had hoped to do under that 15.9 million. But at the same time, they're somewhat constrained by the fact that when the town voted on it, when the people voted on it, they voted for a community center with the understanding that it would have certain aspects to it, that it would have certain utilizations to it. So they can't cut back so much that they're giving the townspeople something different than what they voted for.
They
I
can
think that
in minor ways, but not substantially.
Right, you can cut back on the quality of the materials, you can cut back on how much space you're actually building out and how you're building out those spaces. You can cut back on some of the uses, and, you know, leave it for further development if funds become available at another time. You know, you do what you can with the gym and what you can with the theater, but maybe you don't do everything you had originally thought you would be able to do. But you lay the groundwork so that at a future time, if more grant money or whatever becomes available, you can enhance what you've done. But they've done that as much as they can. And my understanding is that they've done that as much as they can and still believing that what they would be giving the town is what they voted for. And are coming up with something along the lines of, Seth, do you recall? I'm trying to think, I think I've heard the $22-23 million bids. I believe that's the number that I heard just last night.
Yeah, and just one last point here is this is not my interpretation of what's going on. This was based on the explanation that was given by the town attorney and the town's bond counsel,
Right.
both
Right.
on the meeting, and explained all of this. So,
Right.
in other words, this is a freight train going down a hill. It's going to happen. It's almost too late to even say that it's not achievable and we have to abandon it because of an argument called latches, which is a reliance argument that the town voted, that we already took out money and bonds, and that, you know, anybody who's interested in having a community center, who's a stakeholder, any town person, citizen, could sue the town and say, nope, you know, we voted on it, you spent money already, it has to go forward as planned. So there's no undoing the plan now. It's just a matter of whether the town will vote to basically accept the grant money in offset of the overage, in the cost of the project.
And maybe more to your point, they still are, the facilities committee still is continuing looking at the project to see if there are other areas or other aspects that they can reduce the expenditure. So they're continuing to look at that. I just, at this point, you know, I would take the conservative approach and say the price isn't going to go down. You know, it'd be wonderful if it does, but let's face it, let's work the facts that we have now, the numbers we have now.
Can any of that grant or budget, money be moved to provide the same function in a different facility?
I do not believe so.
I don't think so because there was a plan that the town voted on.
Yeah.
So it has to be largely in compliance with the plan that was presented that
Right.
the town relied on when it voted.
What was the sum of the bids?
Now, the one thing that, you know, I just mentioned this, the one thing that they haven't done so far is they haven't gone after additional funding for the historic reasons of maintaining that building. So there's potentially more grant money out there. But again, we can't, you know, you don't even want to really talk about that because who knows if you're ever going to see it.
Because it was 17 at the low.
That's why I'm gonna bring this discussion back, because I'm obviously we
Yeah.
can't solve the academy.
Right,
But in the
right.
spirit
And I don't
of
think that's,
suggestion, I think we're trying to.
I hear what Seth is saying. I kind of feel like since this has to get voted on again, I kind of feel like staying out of it, to be honest. I don't have an opinion either way on whether or not the town should build the community center or not.
I mean, that's a good point. I wanted to see if we could find a way forward to help just shed more light on the facts, but I honestly, I don't feel like our committee is built to or is necessarily capable of finding facts quickly enough to lend to that debate. So maybe Nick's right. Maybe we just take a pass on that then. And we just keep plodding forward on a future facing, here's property, here's what we've spent, here's space, here's square footage, and at some point we report. But our report might be changed because by the time we get to final numbers on something, the Board of Selectmen may vote to get rid of Ryerson or raise it or get rid of Jeffrey or whatever. So yeah, let's just keep on putting facts and numbers together kind of so that we create a record for folks to be able to look at when it's more.
That's where I'm coming from there too, is that I'm taking away from this, that it makes sense for us to issue kind of an interim report to say this is where we're at. Because we're basically a year in.
yeah, I mean, it seems to make a lot of sense to me too, to also make sure that the work that you're doing, which you know, this is only my second meeting, and the work that you've done so much work and you have so much information that you've gathered, to make sure that what you're planning on doing with it is indeed what was expected to come out of your committee.
Yeah.
You know, you want to make sure you're on the same path that the board of selectmen expects from.
Anything that people learn from history is that things change. And, you know, I think, you know, the fascinating thing about the conversations when Academy was, I mean, let's face it, I was the chair of the Academy Committee back in 2011. When we put together a very sensitive series of proposals that never got executed and the building got pushed aside.
Wasn't there a survey as well?
Yeah, there was a survey done in 22. And a vote, I guess it was done in 2022 was the vote, I think, but under any scenario, when people voted on this project, you know, that was before the school was approved. That was before, you know, the plan to reduce the closed 3 school buildings was well known, or at least certainly validated. You know, and it was before any of the work we've done. So, you know, if you just take those pieces, I think, and put those together and provide our interim report, it seems that we're adding information to the knowledge base, if you will, factual information to the knowledge base, which goes to your point, Seth, I think, of saying, hey, this is what we're finding. We're not concluding anything yet.
Yeah.
We're not recommending anything yet, but these are some of the tripwires that are out there in many respects, you know, versus the good things, and you know, you got good things and you got bad things, and these are some of the things that we were surprised at. We were surprised at that we found a couple hundred acres of land that is potentially developable. The town, why does the town own it? You know, we're surprised by the utilization of some of the facilities and both high and low. You know, and condition. So, I think that's probably a reasonable way to go for the next quarter, maybe.
Yeah.
And then once we get, I think Judy's good point is that once we get reactions from other committees, they can, from the selectmen and in particular the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Finance, they can say, is this what you expected to get from this committee? And does this make sense and continue to move forward in this direction? Or does it not make sense to move forward in this direction?
Yeah, I think at least initially, we ought to aim to offer a basic understanding of the stock that the town has or owns in different kinds of property around town. Here's the building stock or the, physical plant stock, and here's what it costs to maintain it, and here's what's needed in those buildings. Here's the square footage or whatever. And then here's what we own in non-developed property. And, and just kind of report on it. And I think you're right. I mean, I think that's all we can hope to do initially. And then we can turn focus.
And I did utilize it, utilization, because obviously the schools coming offline affects you in a significant way.
Yeah.
So the interim report just gives an update or a status of where we're at, and what we've done so far.
And yes, and starts laying out some of these facts that are not, I mean, they're public in that these are public meetings and there's minutes and there's things that are on there.
So what are we looking to get out of issuing that report to whoever, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, Board of whoever?
Well, I think that report then says if we were going to go forward, we'd move forward in these across these maybe 3 or 4 categories. Did the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance agree with that? Does that meet the expectations of where you think we should be going as a committee?
Yeah, it's almost like a bit of a conflict between just reporting on what is there and then strategically taking a strategic view of what then to do with it. There's almost a bit of a conflict.
I think there's people will read between the lines if we write the report properly.
Yeah.
The other side of it is we haven't quantified what the community defines as needing more community space. How much space? You can say this is what we have available or how we can be more efficient. But I don't know what the other side of the line is. What is their expectation?
The only thing we do know is the program plan for Academy. That's kind of
That's why I was wondering what the program is.
so we can get
Yeah.
we can get the copy of that program plan easily enough. I'll talk to Bill Stable, chair, right? I think
Of the
Bill
academy.
Stable.
Joe Bell.
Joe Valentine.
Joe Bell. Talk to Joe. Tell him this is what we want. Okay. All right, well, that kind of sets a series, do we all intend, is there a consensus that should be the way to go over the next couple months?
I think I really like your idea of like a quarter or midterm report to the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen. I think that would be, kind of sets the tone as to at least here's where we're at. I mean, what we found, even just highlighting the properties that were available in town, nobody really was aware.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really valid thing to discuss and bring it out early.
It's just a path.
Yeah.
We're on a path of what.
Sure, I think that was great.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and I think there should be some, I think we have a consensus that says properties that are adjacent to town-owned land should be embraced.
Yes.
And properties that are not adjacent and have no real adjacency value should be revalued. I think that's kind of what we're coming down to in many respects, and saying there are certain properties and certain functions on some of the current properties that don't seem to make as much sense as they probably should. And the classic is the surf club. there's a maintenance garage there, is, you know, you could really use that space for a lot of other things. But nonetheless, you know. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty cool. Then then let's move forward and we'll start. So maybe I will take it upon myself to kind of put some pen to paper and give some outline of
I was
these
just gonna
ideas.
ask that, like a format.
Yeah, just a format outline and send that around to get comments before our next meeting and then we can actually convert some of that to be filled in and work it through. Okay.
Thank you.
Seth, thank you for kicking off that discussion. I didn't expect it to go in that direction, but I think it was productive. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Public comments. Do we have any public?
No, we do not.
All right. Well, with that, then, unless there's any new business that anybody else would like to add?
No.
Nope. I think then I need a
I
motion.
would like to apologize. I misunderstood completely about the capital, and I've been sitting on this information for probably close to 4 or 5 months. And I completely, I don't know why I didn't, for whatever reason.
That's okay. In the interim report, I'm going to throw you under the bus.
I was like, and I'm sitting there going, capital improvement plan, and I'm like, I have all the data, and you've been asking for this for a while, and I just was like, all right, it just, the 2 and 2 didn't hit, and I'm sorry, I apologize.
It's the stonewalling effect.
It is now, no, there's no stonewalling, I've been very good with all that stuff, I just couldn't believe, I was like, oh my gosh.
All right, so who motioned to adjourn? I need a
Second.
second. And thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye,
We'll see you
guys.
all.